And friends, boys and girls. Uh, this is Woody, Grandpa, Woodworth Whitlock, and that is my mother and dad shortly after I was born, November 15th, 1930, in Jackson, Michigan. And you can tell by the dress and hairstyles that's a long time ago. And this is my very first birthday cake. And I'm more impressed with the candle and the flame than I am with the cake. That's the first time I've ever seen that. And that's my mom admiring me and me admiring the flame. And there I am a few months later with mother and dad before we moved from there down to West Texas where his parents lived because those were the Depression years and dad was looking for work. Here I am trying to fill my dad's hat if I can't fill his shoes. And there I am at about, 3 years old, I guess, pure and unspoiled yet. Here I am at age 4, just typical pictures of what Woody looked like. At that same time down, just 2 years, quite not 2 years younger than me, but down in Missouri, Bday is growing up. So there we are about comparable age, me in Illinois and Bday in Missouri. And here again, Bday playing with her sister, playing dolls, and I'm playing with my electric train, about the same time in our lives. This is when I was 6 in the first grade, broke my arm, playing with my 2 neighbor buddies. Mom was away at the grocery store and I was home alone. We took a bamboo and wedged it into a stump tree, and one held the other end of the bamboo, and we tried high jumping over it. I didn't quite make it, fell down, and my arm was underneath the bamboo and I was on top. But the kids said, "Hey, I think your arm is broken." I said, "No, it can't be broken," because to me, broken was like a stick where you see it broke. So I wasn't convinced it was broken, but it was hurting. But then we saw a red chow dog coming down that sidewalk right there. We'd seen him before. He lived in the neighborhood, but we all had the idea that chow dogs were ferocious and dangerous. So more scared of him than we were worried about the arm, we hid behind bushes till he went by. There I am, the one and only time I was ever on ice skates. My ankles were too floppy, I guess. And that was at Christmas time. This is still in Freeport, Illinois. And those are some cowboy furry chaps that I was given for Christmas. But I liked them more than I did the skates, and I never went ice skating after that. This is a picture of me in my senior year in high school. I loved ROTC. That's where I could excel and be acknowledged for it. And so I really shined in that. Wow. This is the school I went to in Rockford, Illinois. And this is me at graduation from school. From there, I went to college at Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, for 2 years. At the end of those 2 years, they asked me what I wanted to major in. And I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Well, what are you going to devote your life to?" And I said, "Shoot, I don't even know what I'm living for." So I needed a timeout. So I took a break, dropped out of college, and went in the Navy. And there we are lining up as recruits at the gate, Great Lakes Naval Training Center at north of Chicago on Lake Michigan. And we were all kind of hyper and active, happy with our little duffel bags or travel bags, until we got inside that gate and we heard it close and the padlock locked. And then we knew we were in serious. There we are lined up for chow. And here they're teaching us about ships and what it's going to be like to go aboard ship, which I finally managed to do after I finished my year of training there at Great Lakes in electronics. There's Mom standing with me in my uniform about ready to depart and to go aboard my ship. There's my ship, PA 217. PA stands for a personnel attack. And what that means is we carried the landing craft that you see sometimes in movies where they take troops in and they drop the front end and they all run ashore. Well, this is the ship that had served that way, like in Normandy in World War II. And if you'll see at the very center, highest point in the middle of up above the smokestack of the ship, there's a yard arm going across a vertical pole. And the picture of me to the left is sitting on the end of that pole, installing radio insulators for antenna insulators.
Right there.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Then after I got out of the Navy, I figured I decided to want to become a missionary as my life work. I went down to Mexico to try it out, and there I am admiring a fig tree at a garden at the YWCA there in Monterrey, Mexico. But this is what I admired more about Monterrey, Mexico, and that's Betty Grace Smoot, a preacher's daughter who also wanted to be a missionary. And we decided we liked each other, so we hooked up. And the next summer, we were married at her father's church in Detroit, Michigan, father of the groom and mother of the bride, and father of the bride walking her down the aisle. But he also was the minister, so he turned around at the end of the aisle, performed the ceremony, and there we walked out, Mr. and Mrs. F.W. Whitlock Jr. Yee-hoo. And there we are with the wedding cake ceremony, her shoving it into my mouth. And there we are happy after the wedding. This is how it all got started for us. Just married, heading off for our honeymoon. Though actually we drove, that's her dad's car. We drove our little Ford down to Key West, Florida, took the ferry over to Havana, Cuba. It was a little bit unsteady on the sea going across. It wasn't as big a ship as I was used to, and so I got a little bit woozy on that crossing. But after our honeymoon, we gathered up a lot of stuff on the beaches of the Keys going over, so we used it to decorate our little apartment at the college where I was finishing my 4th year of college. The seashells pasted on the lampshade you see there, and a piece of driftwood holding it up. And there's where I did my last 2 years of college to finish off before going on to seminary, where we studied Bible and theology and psychology and all kinds of stuff for 3 years and served a little church up in Wisconsin. And then we're finally commissioned to be missionaries to Uruguay, South America. And there is where we lived. This is the hill at the bottom here of the Cerro, it's called, the hill up overlooking Montevideo downtown is across the bay there. And our church looked kind of like an LDS chapel. But there we are with the Cerro Methodist Church, Pastor and Pastora Whitlock. And here we are, friendshipping with a couple of the folks that were members of the congregation there. Notice the Coke bottles and Orange Crush. That's the national drink down there. And there I am with a young student pastor showing him how we're going to go out and visit members. And then we moved after 2 years there up to a little church in the town called Durazno, and we were there for 3 months, during which time I read the Book of Mormon, joined the church, and moved to Salt Lake. Whoops, how did that happen? Go back one. Back. Yeah, Salt Lake City, where we learned a lot more about the LDS Church. And this is where we finally live. We have David and Kitty join our family now. And there we are in Belton, Texas in 1976. You can see by the hairstyles the epoch that we're living in. Notice that all the participants have bare feet. And there we are in 1974 outside the Salt Lake City Temple, where we were sealed as a family all together forever and ever. And they don't require short haircuts to be sealed in the temple. And there I am working as a printer for 7 years in Sapulpa, Oklahoma, and then as a counselor in Layton, Utah for 10 years before retiring. And then we went on a mission down to El Salvador and later to Nicaragua. And after that, this is moving into now another part of my life, the athletic part. This is back in 1932, and I was just less than 2 years old, and I was trying to think about attempting a backflip off that pier, but I decided not to that day. But later on, I got my nerve up and tried a plane forward dive. During World War II in 1942, we lived on Chesapeake Bay in Maryland, and that's where I started experimenting with diving. But then in 1950, 8 years later, I'm at St. Louis in my first year of college, and then I'm doing a what they call a reverse dive and a backwards, different kind of dives. That's when I was in the Navy. And then I gave up diving and went to running because it just was more satisfying. And there I am on one of various marathons. And there I am at Creed coming up the drive. That's our favorite place to run. And there we are in 2011 when I was 80, and a whole bunch of us joined in running races of different ages of groups.
In Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah, did 8 marathons in 8 months, and then in 2016, the whole family took off, prepared and ran the marathon, the Richmond Marathon, and made it all together. And that is the end of the show.
Anything else you want to add, Dad?
No.
It's a good life?
Yeah, it's been a great life with family and sports and church work and everything, and we're just happy the way it's ending up today. This is the best year of my life so far, and the end is not in sight.
And what birthday is this?
Oh, yeah, the big 90. 90.
90. How do you feel about that?
Great. My mom, I have a picture of her with her 100th birthday cake, so I'm holding out for another 10 years, and we'll take a picture of that too if we get there.
If you were to just give one piece of
advice,
if this was the last video you ever made, and there was just one thing that you had to just make sure everybody knew,
yeah,
what would that
would be?
Piece of nugget be?
Get to know Jesus Christ in a personal way, period.
There you have it at 90 years.
Yeah.
What you've learned.
Love you all. End recording.